Good evening, everybody. This is Casper from the Tropical Weather Threat Society bringing you our nightly update. And as we could see with Hurricane Melissa, not looking like it used to. The shear has taken a significant impact on the structure of the storm, although there are still some pretty pretty strong winds associated with this, but maybe not getting down to the surface as much as noted by the 5 p.m. discussion. So, I do want to show a couple different versions here of satellite. First being the obvious infrared image. We don't see any of those really, widespread, you know, dark black, or white cloud tops, these cool cloud tops, as you could see here. It's still a tropical system. There's no doubt about that. But it is certainly starting to feel the effects of that upper level shear. There's no doubt about it. As far as the water vapor image is concerned, as you could see, these yellows and oranges represent dry air. And I'm going to pull out the crayons here because we've got, upper level cirrus clouds and things obscuring our view. But if you look in this region, well, that's probably a terrible color. Here, let's try something along that line. I believe that'll do. As this loop is running, if you look right here, you will see that dry air at the lower levels still trying to wrap around. So there's a whole bunch of negative factors that are currently impacting this storm. But as you could see with these brighter greens, this is where our showers are concerned. As far as thunderstorms, if I turn on the lightning tracker, maybe a couple down here with this rain band way south of the system, but there's nothing here within the core. So all of this is just really heavy rain. Oh, there went one flash way up here to the north. No lightning. So it is certainly not intensifying at all. Other than if it is, it's kind of doing a little bit of a extratropical or post-tropical transition, and though I don't believe so. Maybe the pressures will drop a little bit. We'll find out here shortly. We've got a hurricane reconnaissance en route. Actually, in the storm has already dropped the first drops on, so we will see here shortly. All right, as far as the 5 p.m. advisory goes, we are located at 30.2 north, 69.7 west, about 325 miles west-southwest of Bermuda, with a maximum sustained winds of 105 miles an hour, moving northeast at 31 miles an hour, and a minimum central pressure of 967 millibars. There still remains a hurricane warning in effect. That's going to be questionable, though they may see hurricane force gusts. As far as our hazards affecting land, wind. Tropical storm conditions will begin on Bermuda by early this evening, with hurricane conditions expected there tonight. Gusty winds are possible over the southern Avalon Peninsula of Newfoundland Monday or Friday night. Rainfall for Bermuda, outer bands of Melissa may bring 1 to 2 inches of rain through tonight. A brief period of heavy rain is possible over the southern Avalon Peninsula of Newfoundland Friday night. Storm surge. Coastal flooding from storm surge is possible in areas of onshore winds for Bermuda. And then our surf. Give it a couple days, folks. Give it about 2 days, and we'll be good to go. And then all the wave activity associated with this system will be long gone. Give it about 2 days, please. Stay out of the water. 2 days. That's all I ask. You got go through tomorrow, and then be very careful on Saturday. If you decide to go to the beach Sunday, have fun. All right, our 5 p.m. advisory. Now, I'm going to have to read all 3 paragraphs here tonight because the first one is quite important. A recent microwave pass over Melissa indicates that the center is tilted towards the northeast with height. The 89 gigahertz mid to upper level image shows a center at least 30 nautical miles northeast of where the 37 gigahertz or low level image has the center. This indicates that strong west-southwesterly shear has begun. Drops on and flight level wind data from a NOAA reconnaissance flight show that the surface winds are much weaker than the winds aloft, and that the standard 90% reduction factor should not be used. Winds on the east side of Melissa are quite strong, between 1,500 feet and 10,000 feet, but drop off significantly near the surface. The strongest flight level wind was 113 knots. ASCAT showed vectors up to 70 knots around 15Z, which would be 11 a.m. Eastern, which is consistent with lower level layered average data from the dropsondes. The latest subjective Dorvac estimates are T 5.0 90 knots from both TAB and SAB. The initial intensity will be held at 90 knots, which is equivalent to 80% of the maximum flight level wind from the recent flight, but this may be a bit generous. Melissa is accelerating northeastward, or 35 degrees at 27 knots. Melissa is likely to speed up to a forward speed of 35 knots or more over the next 12 hours, and the fast motion should continue into Saturday as Melissa moves within the flow between a mid-level trough over the eastern U.S. and a subtropical ridge over the central Atlantic. The guidance is in excellent agreement for the first 48 of the forecast. I think it was supposed to be 48 hours of the forecast, with the center expected to pass northwest of Bermuda tonight, where a hurricane warning is in effect. After Melissa becomes extratropical in about 30 hours, the center should pass very near the southeastern tip of the Avalon Peninsula of Newfoundland, where some impacts from wind, rain, and surf are possible. Little to no change has been made to the official track forecast through 48 hours, which lies near the various consensus aids. Melissa is now moving into progressively stronger west-southwesterly wind shear and will reach sea surface temperatures below 26 degrees this evening. Therefore, Melissa should begin a weakening trend by early Friday. GFS and Euro simulated satellite imagery suggests that Melissa should become post-tropical around Friday evening, prior to making its closest approach to Newfoundland. The NHC intensity forecast is similar to the previous one and lies within the upper portion of the intensity guidance suite. The NHC intensity and radii forecast after Melissa becomes post-tropical are largely based on the global model solutions. And as we could see here, it's not expected to be, we're going to be live tomorrow night at 6 p.m., and that's going to be the last of Melissa. We're going to talk about her one more time. No early morning live in the morning or none of that. We're going to talk about no late night live tonight because this will probably be at the rate that it's moving. Um, it's probably going to be past Bermuda by that time, or maybe right up on it. I can't say no late live tonight. I will keep a very close eye on it. I'm gonna check it probably about 9:30, and depending on maybe 9:15, 9:30, depending on what everything looks like, I may go live, but please don't expect it. If this at the rate that this thing is moving, maybe not. So what I want to show here, folks, is a Dropson mission from earlier. And it was mentioned in the discussion how the winds are rather strong from about 1,500 feet up to the flight level. So during this mission, I want everybody to pay attention here to this map. And really, we're going to look at these six right here. We are going to look at 6 through 11. All right, we're going to look at these dropsons, and I want to show you something. And then we're going to look at it on Earth Null, and I don't know, it may be intriguing to y'all. So first off, we are going to start with dropson number 6. At this point in time during the flight, this was the eastern eye wall. And if we look at some of these values, with height, they are quite strong, even up to 122 knots at the highest, actually 128 knots. But when we get down to the surface and near the surface down here, the winds are barely hurricane force. Minimal, 65 knots. 64 knots is the classification for a Cat 1 hurricane, and that's 65 knots. Now, again, there are some subtle differences. So what we're going to do now is number 7. And number 7 would have been the flight coming out of the eastern eye wall, because they went through the eye between 5 and 6, and then flying eastward out of the storm, going 7, 8, and then up to the north. So now we're going to go 7. And as you could see here, again, we have the same thing. The wind's reducing in overall speed as it gets down to the surface. 986 millibars at the surface as it's flying out of the eye wall. 58 knots. It's still formidable wind, no question about it, but it is not what we are looking at and what is being found at higher levels, off the ground. Now, like they said, these stronger winds in the discussion are anywhere between about 1,500 feet and 10,000 feet above the ocean surface. The highest point on Bermuda is 249 feet at Town Hill. So this is somewhat optimistic. Now we're looking at dropson number 8. Again, we're flying out. We are all the way out to the east. And dropson number 8 still shows that reduction of wind speed, still some strong winds up there, well away from the center of circulation on the eastern side here, well away from the center. But as we get down, even almost hurricane force winds down here at the surface, well to the east of the storm. So let's go look at the northeast portion. Now, we all know that the northeast portion is usually where we, commonly see the biggest, the strongest winds of the storm. Not always. If we look at the dropson number 9, the overall wind speeds themselves are much weaker. At the surface, we're barely into, we're low grade tropical storm. Now, this is dropson number 9. So we'll look at the map again. We're out here to the northeast. Now, as we get to dropson 10, we are getting closer and have now hit the northeastern eye wall. When we look and compare the northeastern eye wall to the values that we saw there in the eastern eye wall, we see a considerable reduction in the winds, comparatively speaking. We still see the winds, really, decent level and averaged out at height, and then down there at the surface, not so much. A considerable reduction. What is happening now that we've taken a look at that? I do want to hit the refresh and check our current. Yep, here we come. Got some winds, hurricane force for sure at flight level, getting into the Cat 2, almost Cat 3 winds here. And keep in mind, that's flight level, that's not down at the surface. What do we got? See, the winds at the surface are looking to be quite a bit lower than what we have at flight level. Now I'm going to show you why. If we look here at Earth Null, we're going to put our trusty green circle right into the center of Melissa, and we're going to zoom back. You see the frontal boundary, you see the development, you see a little bit of rotation and a lot of air going into New England. Well, there happens to be an area of low pressure over the Great Lakes region. And I'm going to bring this up all the way to the 500 millibar level, where we have the majority of the steering currents. Even though that's also trying to be stripped away. But if you notice, we've got our, let me get a different color here. Let's go black. We've got, I don't know if black's going to show up that well. Let's go white. We've got our high pressure located right here, with the ridge bringing the winds in like this. You've got the low pressure here with all of the pressure gradient between point A and point B. You've got a lot of winds here on this eastern side. You also have this low pressure here and the winds from the jet stream that are coming around that low pressure. That is a deep layer low pressure. If we come up to the upper level, as you could see, you still see the low. You come all the way down, you still see the low. That's what's known as a deep layer trough or low area of low pressure. Sometimes they only get down to maybe the 500 millibar level, and they're a mid-level. This one happens to be a deep level, and this is what is giving this high pressure, kind of eroded it back and has allowed an exit path very, very rapidly off to the northeast, as you could see with this jet streak right here. This, at the 500 millibar level, is really, really pushing the storm. If we go up about 6 miles above the ocean surface, you can really see the wind streak and the jet streak, that this thing, the overall amount of shear that is impacting this storm. It's insane. And the values, I've been watching it all day. I'll go pull them up here from the University of Wisconsin. They've been growing all day right now, and this is at least 3 to 6 hours old, probably closer to around 3, 4 hours old. Nope, closed. Yeah, about 4 hours old. Was issued at 2. It was dealing with 39 knots of shear at that point. Um, and it is getting beat to death by these upper level winds. And that's why Melissa is not coming back from this at all. One bit. Like we still have that burst of shower activity and rainfall that is still occurring that we saw on satellite. It is still tropical, but it's going to be losing its tropical characteristics rather quickly. And if I come up to about, let's go about the 850 level, and I take this forward, here with the GFS, we've gone forward about 16 hours. And here we are. This is tomorrow night. Look where it's at. I mean, it's pretty much done for. This thing is out here, and then you start to see this little bit of frontal features here. And this is what they were calling kind of being interconnected with this deep layer area of low pressure as well. And while it is taking this high pressure and moving it out of the way, and this storm will be going up and around. And where does it go? Well, folks, I bet you didn't have this one on your bingo card for 2025. Iceland is in the cone of uncertainty for this storm. Bet you didn't have that one on your card for 2025. Iceland. Normally we'll see things head towards Europe and maybe the United Kingdom, but not this time. Iceland, in and around the region, may not directly impact it, but Iceland. And as you can see, there's going to be some decent winds there on Bermuda. No doubt about it. The tropical storm force winds will be approaching very soon, if not already there. Let's find out. This area here on the southwestern side, this one is probably going to be the one that registers the highest, because this one is a little elevated. So, but right now, 25 knots, gusting to 31. Not really a lot. Here at the airport, 19 knots, gusting to 24. Not a lot, folks. Not yet. I mean, and the thing is unfortunately, their radar is down. So they've at least given an area here, estimated rainfall, and as we could see, maybe, getting upwards of 20, maybe the upper teens in the millimeters. Maybe not a lot. Certainly not a flooding threat. It's moving way too fast to even think about trying to flood anything. No. I mean, this thing is... Melissa decided that it wanted to exit the basin rapidly. And as you can see with the spaghetti plots here, when I say rapidly, I mean very, very quickly over these next 48 hours. Here is the 24-hour mark compared to the initialization point down here. 24 hours and then 48 hours being way up here. So by the time, and this was initialized at 2 p.m. So by the time that we go live tomorrow night, I would not be surprised if the 5 p.m. Primary advisory, if maybe earlier, turns this post-tropical. Would not be surprised at all. It'll end up crossing over the northern wall of the Gulf Stream, and I can show that here real quick on Earth Null. You could see where the Gulf Stream current is, and then the sea surface temperatures. Once it gets north of that, forget it. You're done. And it's going to be there really quickly. Its forward speed is going to be a serious impediment on that. But its forward speed on this eastern side, because of the way that the storm is screaming off to the northeast rapidly, and the counterclockwise rotation on this storm, the winds that are coming out here on the eastern side are also kind of being helped, reinforced by the forward momentum of this storm. So we could see a decent amount of gusts, and that's one of the reasons why we see such high upper level wind or low level wind values and not so much there at the surface or near the surface, just due to the fact that there is atmospheric drag. And I mean, hey, if we can spare, folks, look, we're up to 977 and the previous advisory was 967. So this has the pressures are really starting to succumb to the overall atmospheric environment, and it's starting to make that post-tropical transition. It may even occur earlier than the 5 p.m. advisory if we're going to start rising pressures this quickly. But as you could see, very strong flight level winds. They ride at about the 700 millibar level. And as you could see here, their altitude is right here. No, I take that back. Hold on. I got this backwards. I knew I was looking at it funny. They don't color coordinate. I mean, you got a thick black line and a real skinny black line. So, you know, my eyesight ain't what it used to be. This is the pressure, this line. And as you could see, it is running at about the 700 millibar level. This line here is the altitude. And it is running here, and this is all in meters. So right around that 10,000 foot level is where they're flying. Let's see if we got any drop zones. We've got a 3 and a 4 and a 2. So we know 2 is going to be, look how weak these winds are. And a lot of that has to do with is these winds are the ones on the north side of the circulation that are having to come back around, and everything is racing that direction. So these winds are going to be dramatically weaker than what we had. Now, the eye of the storm, they kind of missed it. 54 knots there at the surface. 977. That may have to be revalued, being that it's at 54 knots. They missed it. Either that or the whole thing is utterly collapsing right before our eyes. Now, the max wind band, notice, that's on this southeasterly side as the winds are piling around and racing around the low-level surface circulation, as you will see, and as that is trying to fill in and all that air rushing into that low pressure, this is going to go much higher. And though it is not what we saw earlier, Still, the winds are not getting down to the surface. These extreme, I guess you would call these extreme values for certain. That would be a Category 4 wind here. But again, it is well above the surface, at least 1,000 feet above the surface. So, what the first hurricane hunter saw earlier today is the same thing that this Air Force reconnaissance is looking at. So, at least that is going to be some positive, potentially positive signs for Bermuda. The only thing that I worry about is where these areas of showers are, because of the way that the rain is falling through the atmosphere, and you kind of have those updrafts and downdrafts associated with those showers. At that point, you could transport some of these upper level or lower level winds down to the surface in the form of gusts. It's going to be very blustery, no doubt about it, but it's not going to last long. Our wind speed probabilities for Bermuda: 89% chance of tropical storm force winds. It's almost a guarantee you're going to see them. And then a 17% chance of seeing those sustained 50 knot or 58 mile an hour winds, and your hurricane force winds completely off the board. Gone. That's sustained. You still may see gusts. For Cape Race, Newfoundland, 75% chance of seeing our tropical storm force winds, and a 33% chance of seeing our 50 knot winds, and a 7% chance of seeing at least sustained hurricane force winds, although it will be post-tropical by that point in time. The winds, the winds are still going to be quite impactful. For the Hibernia oil field, 75% chance of tropical storm force winds, and a 23% chance there of the 50 knot winds, less than 5% for our hurricane force winds. Isle St. Pierre with a 21% chance there of tropical storm force winds, and then Sable Island with a 14% chance of tropical storm force winds. The wind field with the forecast advisory. As we could see, a major expansion. Right now, we are looking at tropical storm force winds out 220. I knew it. Excuse me, folks. I felt that coming. I was trying to fight it off. I really was. I knew my nose wanted to ambush me in the middle of this. So, as we could see, the tropical storm force wind field, 220 miles to the southeastern quadrant. Well, as we go forward in time, 250, 290, 350, 360, the overall wind field is going to really expand with this storm. It's going to really, really expand. So, James, no. Let's not start that. You're trying to curse me with sneezing. That's not funny. You're laughing. I'm not laughing. I don't need to sneeze. I really don't. I dislike being ambushed by my nose. So, at least for our key messages here for Bermuda, hurricane conditions are expected in Bermuda tonight with tropical storm conditions beginning early this evening. Preparations should have been completed. And again, for Bermuda, maybe not seeing the hurricane conditions right there on land. It's going to be gusty. But right offshore there in Bermuda, guaranteed you are going to see some in those opened, exposed areas. It's going to be quite impactful. But it's not going to last very long. Key message number 2, post-storm safety. Follow advice of local officials as you may need to remain sheltered after the storm due to down power lines and flooding. Any flooding across the Bahamas is expected to subside today. Flooding across Cuba, Jamaica, and Hispaniola could persist for another few days. Ensure generators are properly ventilated and placed outside at least 20 feet away from dwellings and garages to avoid carbon monoxide poisoning. During cleanup, be careful when using chainsaws, ladders, and power tools. I included ladders in there. Drink plenty of water to avoid heat exhaustion. The most likely arrival time of tropical storm force winds. The reason that I have this up is not for Bermuda. It's pretty much imminent. It could be any moment now where we get at least a tropical storm force gust. Again, that's why I have been monitoring the gusts here, and not yet, but for the Avalon Peninsula and our friends up here into the Canadian Maritimes, overnight tomorrow night. So please, if you need to batten down anything, please make sure that you have all your preparations completed by tomorrow for sure. The earliest reasonable arrival time of winds may be around sunset, maybe just a little bit earlier, but here, well, definitely a little bit earlier than sunset. But as you could see here, the most likely arrival time of those tropical storm force winds will be overnight Friday and be gone by the time you get up Saturday morning. It's gonna race by. It says, as it says here, we've got Cape Race, Newfoundland, and well, Melissa's going to test that race. She's trying to blow by there and put a score up on the board and maybe get a speeding ticket from the Canadian Mounties. Who knows? It's on its way for amnesty in Iceland, I guess, if you want to go that route. I really wish that they would update this, and I know that they're not going to update this till the 0Z, which is going to be for another little over an hour and 20 minutes or so from this point in time in the live. But boy, I wish they would come up with this because I know that shear is absolutely insane. The lower levels are not moving like the upper levels at all. You can see the upper levels, it's not playing around. The lower levels is not even going in that direction. Like it's wanting to go in that way, but the lower levels and the upper levels are like, no, I don't think so. Like we're not going to be moving nowhere near as fast, but as soon as you get up here and start going up into the atmosphere, boy, we are going to get some serious winds. And Melissa's done. We just got to get through this. Just these next, 24 hours. And for the impacts there in Canada, Melissa's toast. All right, looking at the official forecast here for the public synopsis. Conditions are expected to rapidly deteriorate overnight as Melissa approaches the island. Tropical storm force winds develop this evening with a slight chance for hurricane force gusts, especially in showers and over exposed elevated areas. Dangerous seas and swells quickly build overnight as Hurricane Melissa passes. A hurricane warning remains in effect, but expect conditions to steadily improve on Friday as Hurricane Melissa races away to the northeast. So, again, a quick hitter. Folks in Bermuda are going to wake up in the morning and it's going to be maybe a little bit breezy, but it's going to be fine. If it wasn't for the branches and everything strewn all over the place, you may not even know that the storm went through. possible. All right, real quick. We're going to discuss this, though. There is, from the Global Tropics Hazards Outlook, 20% chance here on week 2 and week 3 in 2 parts of the Western Caribbean. As we could see, the Madden-Julian oscillation currently, as far as the GFS is concerned, and the GEFS, we're not here. We're on the other side of the planet right now. So the MJO, Phase 5, currently sitting in the maritime region in and around, the Western Pacific, getting into Southeast Asia. Okay. Knowing that, if we look at the Euro model over the next 10 days, we don't see much of anything at all. They're saying that maybe something could develop in the middle of the month. Maybe. It's doubtful. I'm not going to lie, it's doubtful. And I'll show you why here in a moment. But again, you can't rule it out. Hurricane season runs through November 30th, and there may be a storm develop out here. May not be a threat much of intensity or anything, but we may get a little something try to spin up down there late second week going into like the 3rd week of November. Maybe it's going to be a little limited amount of time that it would have that opportunity, but again, it's not likely that anything gets itself together. There would just be a little bit of a better upper level environment just for a little bit, and then it disappears. But otherwise than that, no. So looking at the Euro out 10 days, here, let me put the GFS into that mode, and we're just going to jump straight to 10 days. The GFS, look, the GFS always wants to spin up something down there. And I'm actually going to show you in the deterministic to where the GFS wants to try to do something, and the environment is like, no, you just cut it out and stop it, and go sit down and puts the GFS in timeout. It's kind of funny. At least from my point of view, I looked at it and I was like, yeah, all right. Because I may, I don't ever show it on the live, but I'll throw it all the way out just to see what kind of hype and, just pure BS that ends up coming out on social media. It's always kind of a good way to kind of preempt that. It's like, oh, here it comes again. And the GFS is common for spinning up storms this time of the year. And so you look at that and then you compare it with this and, okay, what are we doing? And then if you compare it with the Euro AI out 10 days, the GFS is literally standing on a log all by itself. And then we'll go to the Google DeepMind. I pulled up Melissa. I will say this. The Google DeepMind has performed excellent this year. But as far as the intensity is concerned with the interaction with this jet streak and frontal boundary and the tilting with height, I can say that its intensity models were off. So that I'm sure that the folks there at Google are all over that and were like, okay, we will see improvement. And I'm not going to lie to you. The system itself is going to improve just off how this missed with the intensity over the last 12 hours or so. That shear was just too much. And I know that this is going to learn from that. Did excellent with the intensity throughout while it was still in its fully tropical environment and nature. And then that interaction with that trough and kind of it's starting its transition to becoming post-tropical does look like the DeepMind intensity-wise kind of waffled a little bit on that one. Didn't miss it by a lot, but was, was maybe a little on the aggressive side for some of that re-intensification. The shear caught a hold of it. So I would expect, obviously, with a brand new model that just debuted this year, I mean, come on. They've performed spectacularly. So I will certainly give them, like they've earned a pass on the interactions between a strong frontal boundary and deep layer trough and an extremely strong and deep pressured tropical cyclone with a jet streak and kind of everything kind of lining up just right to cause this thing to potentially end up over moving northeast at over 40 miles an hour is expected. I mean, right now it's at 31. It's still got its foot on the gas. Now, going out, I just want to roll this with the Google DeepMind. The Google DeepMind is set for tropical systems. All right, we're not going to see anything that is non-tropical. You're not going to get any of the other low pressures, upper level lows, mid-level lows, cold core lows. You're not going to get any of that. This is strictly tropical. You guys didn't even realize that I ran it out 15 days. And there's literally one little dot. One, like a small 2% at day 12. I mean, come on. Come on, guys. This very well might be the end of the season right here. And I'm not kidding when I say that. Why do I say that? This is the 850 millibar cyclonic vorticity. We've got the Euro on the left and the GFS on the right. Now, it's very obvious where Melissa is. This measures areas of spin or energy at about 5,000 feet above sea level. And I say sea level this time and not above the ocean surface because I want you to keep a close eye on the United States. I'm going to run this forward 240 hours, which is 10 days. And what we notice is the frequency in which these low pressure areas are moving through. Here comes another one. Yes, coastal storm system potentially developing. Here comes another frontal boundary. Here comes another one. And folks, you're not going to really have the opportunity to get much going if you're continuously slamming things with fronts. Now, I've got to show this. The GFS. So we know once we go past 10 days, and even, sometimes it can get into the 9-day range, maybe even 8.5, and then go haywire and flip it back out to the end. I'm going to show you La La Land. Keep an eye on the right-hand frame. So the GFS decides that, all right, we're into the 300 range, and here we go. We're at 294. Here we go. There's always going to be an area of spin this time of year. There's always going to be an area of vorticity. And here comes the GFS getting ready to do GFS things. And then, here it comes. Here it comes. That low pressure and frontal boundary starts to creep in, blows through Florida, and tells the GFS, stop it, go sit down in the southwestern Caribbean. You're in timeout. Just this weak little area of low pressure. Like, you go over there, you've had enough, go sit down, you're in timeout, you're done for the season. That's it. And I did. I just kind of chuckled at that because of the way that it comes up. It's like, oh, here we go, we're going to do it. And then absolutely not. You go sit down over there and you shut your mouth. So, hey, weather nerds have we find odd things to kind of chuckle at. I'm not going to lie. That one certainly kind of put a smile on my face. Like, yep, Mother Nature put GFS in timeout, told it sit down, shut up, stop spinning up ghost storms. All right. Here we have the humidity levels. We've got the Euro on the left, the GFS on the right. This, with our 500 millibar level here at the top two graphics and a 700 millibar level on the bottom two graphics, this is looking at the dry air and moist air in the layers between around 10,000 and 18,000 feet. And as I run this forward, really the only reason that I am running this forward, I'm not worried about what the GFS is showing with moisture down there in the Caribbean. It's always going to over amplify the moisture down there. What I'm really interested in is the frontal boundaries that are coming through and the areas of low pressure here associated with the low pressure systems coming off of the East Coast and through the United States. And as you could see, just an unbelievable amount of sheer dry air, abundant dry air. Yes, there's still going to be some moisture tapped in with some low pressures that come through and draw moisture up from the Gulf of Mexico, but nothing in tropical in nature. And as we saw, even if you look at the southwestern Caribbean and see that blob of moisture at the 700 and 500 millibar level on the GFS, we already know that that Mother Nature told it to go sit down, shut up. Told it go back to where it came from. The wind shear, this is one of the big reasons why, folks. Again, you're on the left, GFS on the right. This is representative of the winds and how they may blow at different speeds and change with directions and height, and then you value it all together, and that is known as wind shear. This represents the winds from between about 200 millibars and 850 millibars, which is around 40,000 feet all the way down to about 5,000 feet above the ocean surface. Now, I'm going to run this forward, and there goes Melissa. As you can see, we've got some frontal boundaries, some decent frontal boundaries coming in, blowing off the United States, maybe another little area of low pressure. Both models are calling for it, developing out there. Non-tropical, coastal low, nor'easter type situation. Could be quite impactful for the Avalon Peninsula. Just looking at that in a 947, y'all are going to get stomped. But as we get out to about day 7, you're going to start to notice that there is a lot of increasing shear here over the Gulf of Mexico and even getting down into parts of Cuba. And we're now here at day 7. Got a big old upper level low out here, big old upper level low here, out here into the eastern portions of the Atlantic. And that, in combination with that jet streak, really looks to, by the time that we get to the end of this 240 hours, and I've seen this kind of run after run, with another frontal boundary approaching for a reinforcing shot, this looks more indicative of a wintertime basin, because you have got an extreme amount of wind shear over just about everywhere. Winds blowing from west to east in many places with a subtropical jet going over the basin. So, I mean, it's only a matter of time. This is why, the only spot that we could get anything to go would be down here into the Western Caribbean. That's Southwestern Caribbean. That's it. It's the only spot left in the basin here after Melissa clears out, and then that coastal low develops. Because as you could see, between that coastal low that develops here in about 5 days, that coastal low with the upper level low over here really breaks down this Atlantic ridge. Really breaks it down. And by the time that we get to the end, it shears dominating pretty much the entire basin. Hooray! And last but not least, of course, we've got to jump out to the other part of the world. This is kind of where the active phase of the MJO is kind of sitting. 92A has been a persistent little thing. sitting out there off the west coast of India. In the Arabian Sea, and then 98W there into the Western Pacific. Keep an eye on that one, folks. There are some models that want to get that a little interesting, and then some that obviously don't. But there's enough there to where it could get interesting. So please just monitor that in your local officials, because it'll be Pagasa. It's heading towards the Philippines. All right, everybody, that's about all I've got. I'll be live tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central. I know it's going to be Halloween. That will probably be, and could very well be, the last live that we have for storm related things, unless we get a area in the outlook that gives us a 40% chance or higher. We said that we were going to go live every single night regardless of what was going on between August 15th and October 31st. Tomorrow's October 31st. So I would certainly say that tomorrow night has a high probability of being the last live that we have to cover storms, but we will be having our end of season special. I sent Kylie a text right before I got into the live regarding that tonight, and I am like going to drag my daughter out here if I have to. Duct tape's going to be daddy's best friend if I have to get her out here to just be able to participate in this, and then I will take her back home. As long as we can, I'll do whatever I got to do to make that happen. I've resorted to text begging already. I just started out begging. So I know she's extraordinarily busy. I'm trying to give her enough time to plan the schedule and be like, look, you tell everybody, no, you need to be somewhere for about 3 hours. That's all I need you for. We do a trivia night. So after tomorrow night, I'm going to start going back through, and we're going to start making up, and I am the one that makes these questions. I will be formulating the questions for the season, for the end of the season trivia game. So good luck, folks. I know I'm not going to make it ridiculous. I will throw some, the majority of them being halfway decent, but I promise you I'm going to throw a couple hardballs in there. There will be a couple curveballs in there, and if folks get those right, hey, congratulations. I mean, and for the team, you better study if you want to get those right, because you gotta walk into my brain, and we all know how I process and crunch all this data. So, good luck, fellow teammates. All right, everybody, I'm going to sign off for tonight. I will see you again tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central, here on Facebook and YouTube. And it could very well be the last storm-covered live that we have for the 2025 season. So have a wonderful